Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Saturday, April the 2nd, 2022. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the one and only Josh Crash Davis to go over this 5-game slate, 2 early, 3 main for the DFS NBA slate today. How are you this morning, Josh?
Doing well, Coach. How are you doing this morning?
Doing well. Great job yesterday especially on Prize Picks. You hammered it.
Yeah, it was an awesome night, and you had an awesome lineup on Fanduel with a 400 plus lineup. So
thank you. Yeah, 405 plus. I always love, my favorite things are like the Killian Hayes play. When you get a 60 plus burger at 1% ownership,
right,
those are the kind that you really enjoy. That's for sure.
For sure.
So it was a good night for our members. We cashed a DFS, hammered Prize Picks, still in the mid 80s percentage. And I know I knock on wood every day, but you know what? You just keep riding the money train till it stops, I guess.
Exactly.
No doubt. Well, listen, we're going to dive into this 5-gamer. We want to get it out and post it early enough so that you have a chance to get some input on the first 2 early games and also the 3 main slate games. And then we'll follow up with our Prize Picks podcast shortly after. So first of all, I do want to thank our presenting sponsor. That is Prize Picks. If you sign up at prizepicks.com and use the promo code CoachTalk, they will match all the way up to $100 on your first deposit. They'll match you dollar for dollar, up to $100. If you want to put in 20, they match 20, etc. And then jump on Taylor picks and build that bankroll. That is an awesome thing.
Yeah.
So outstanding, man. Let's dive into the early slate. It's unusual today. It's only 5 games on a Saturday. They're avoiding, I guess, the final 4.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow is Load Up City, 12 games. And how about the doubleheader podcast for me? Deb and I are going to tackle the 12-gamer podcast in the morning, and then I'm going on live in the afternoon. Gundacker and I decided to do a Sunday show instead of Saturday because we've got all 12 games going. So 24 teams will be on there forever. But you know what? We're going to come up with some winners. And
that's good.
Yeah, then we'll throw a podcast up there for the Prize Picks as well. And so we'll have everybody covered tomorrow, but we want to get everybody covered today. So let's dive in. First game on the slate. It is 12:30 game Eastern. Charlotte Hornets, Philadelphia 76ers. Philadelphia is favored by 5.5. It's a 228 total. 111.25 implied for Charlotte. 116.75 for Philadelphia. Both of these teams in the playoff hunt. Charlotte 40-37, Philly 46-30. Very few injuries here. Gordon Hayward, believe it or not, probable. He's going to be back for the first time. Certainly will be on a minutes restriction, but expect him in that rotation. Will affect some minutes for some guys without question. Yeah. Philly, no injuries whatsoever. So they are going for that number 1 seed. Quickly here, from the statistical standpoint, Charlotte 3rd in pace and Philly 27th. So opposite ends of the spectrum. Major pace up for Philly, major pace down for Charlotte. Defensively, Charlotte only 22nd. Philadelphia slipped back into the top 10 at 9th. So what do you think here? Is it back to the Joel Embiid tank again as he's on this extended MVP run?
Yeah, I definitely like Joel Embiid. As far as on the Charlotte side, though, I do like Terry Rozier, 6,900 on FanDuel, 7,000 on DK. He had 38 DK points in his only meeting against Philadelphia this year. He missed a couple of games against them. And I also like Miles Bridges at 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DK. He scored 40 plus DK points in 4 of his last 5 games. And he had 40 DK points against Philly earlier. I know you said that Gordon Hayward's going to be back, so that's going to affect him a little bit, but he will be on a minutes restriction. And Gordon Hayward had a pretty big game in that game against Philadelphia when Bridges had the 40 DK points. So I think he can still have some production here. That's a matchup I think that he can take advantage of a little bit. So
Yeah.
I do like Bridges and Rozier on Charlotte. Definitely like Embiid. He had almost 75 DK points against Charlotte earlier this year. They've allowed the fourth most fantasy points to centers. So it's a really good matchup for him. Tobias Harris has been playing well lately. He's 6,600 on both sites. He's got 30 plus DK points in 5 of his last 6 games. And Charlotte's allowed the 6th most fantasy points to power forwards. And you could look at James Harden. I'm not sure if I'm going to go there. He's 10-1 on FanDuel, 10,000 on DK. Charlotte's allowed the 6th most fantasy points to shooting guards, and he's had some big games against them in the past. But I lean towards the Embiid and Harris play on Philadelphia, and then Bridges and Rozier on Charlotte.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. I'm actually toying with, for the very first time this season, because it's a 2-game early slate, and I don't like the second game at all, of maybe dialing up Harden and Embiid.
Okay.
Great. Too much negative correlation?
That makes sense. That does make sense, because if you don't like that second game, I mean, you're going to have to stack, that first one pretty heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I want to have some exposure on the Charlotte side. I'm with you. The guys I'm, immediately drawn to are Rozier and Bridges. I agree completely. I think they're priced right in that mid to lower mid group. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a stack game for me for that 2-gamer. Now, we're going to also be providing the all-day card for Yahoo. So it'll be different on Yahoo. It won't go to both of those guys. But for the 2-game early slate on DraftKings and FanDuel, I like Harden and Embiid here. Okay. I just think they're in a great smash spot against a team that doesn't defend those positions well. Massive pace up. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me.
And I think the guys that are going to suffer a little bit here, as far as Gordon Hayward's return, are PJ Washington and a little bit of Cody Martin. And, it's going to shuffle the deck a little bit in that rotation. I don't think Bridges will take the brunt of it. It may cost Harrell a few minutes off the bench too. So it'll be spread around, but I don't think Ball, Rozier, and Bridges, those three will be affected at all. So definitely going to have massive exposure in this game for me.
Yeah.
All right. The 1:00 game, the second early game on the slate. It is the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. Yes, it's a small spread of only 1, the Knicks favorite, but it's only a 217.5 total. So you got 10.5 points less than that other game. And it's 108.25 implied for Cleveland, 109.25 for the New York Knicks. As far as injuries and status here, Cleveland's 42-35 in the race for seeding in the East. Knicks have been eliminated at 34-43. Out for Cleveland, the big boys, Allen and Mobley, and then Rondo also out. For the Knicks, you've got probable return for Mr. D. Rose. So that's nice to see him back in the mix. Also, McBride is probable. Grimes, Noel, and Julius Randle are out. So that shuffles the deck a bit on these guys. From a game set standpoint, it is the first night of a back-to-back for both Cleveland and the Knicks. And I did not mention, it is the first night of a back-to-back for Philly. So that is just that small sliver of doubt of, is Harden and, Embiid going to miss a couple minutes? You know what I mean? So hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, Cleveland Knicks, first night of a back-to-back. We know Cleveland's short inside. It is what it is. Bad pace here, though. That's why you have such a low total. 24th and 25th, and great defense, 7th and 10th. So even though the Knicks lose, they play good D. So all the criteria of the game script here is not conducive at all to what I'm looking for. I have to say, though, Moses Brown really did come through for us at that cheap price. But what are you thinking in this game? Is it not on your list, or are there a few gems here?
I mean, in the early slate, you have to play somebody. You know, you can't.
Right.
You have to play at least 3 teams. So I'm looking at, Kevin Love had a pretty nice game against the Knicks earlier this year. He had 43.3 DK points. He's 5,800 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK. The guy you mentioned, Moses Brown, is 4,100 on DK. The Knicks have allowed the second fewest fantasy points to centers, but with Allen and Mobley out, there's not really anyone else that's going to be playing that position. So Moses Brown's in consideration, and then the 2 guys that have been carrying the load for New York are Barrett and Burks. I kind of like both of those guys here, and you could also look at Mitchell Robinson, but I lean more towards Barrett and Burks. Barrett's got a better price on FanDuel at 7,500. Burks is a better price on DK at 6,100. So those 2 for New York, and the other 2 I mentioned, Brown and Love for the Cavs, would probably be it for me in just the early slate. In the all day, I don't even know if I'll play any of them. But
okay,
yeah,
in the early slate for me, obviously, I'm going to have to go value here because I'm spending all the money in that first game, and so it sort of takes Garland and Barrett out of the picture for me, and they're both very playable. But at 9-4 and at 8. It's a little bit too much to bite off, but I would prefer, Karis LeVert, since they put him in the starting lineup, is scoring.
Yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah,
6-4 is not a bad price at all. So LeVert and Markkanen at 6K, those 2 are in play for me. I may go back to Moses Brown with Embiid, where you can put 2 centers.
Right.
And then, like you said, Kevin Love's only 5'9", but man, he's risky. He could have good games and bad. That's the only problem. And then the other cheap guys on the Knicks side with Randall out, Obi Toppin's only 4-4. He showed up for us last week. And, I think as a real deep GPP play, Jericho Sims is getting a little bit of time on and off the floor at the 4-5 with Toppin and Robinson. So just somebody, for a last man in, trying to get some value to make everything work. All right, let's go on to the 3-game main slate in the evening. The first game is at 7:30, so you have an extra 30 minutes on that main slate.
Nice.
And you got a big, gigantic total here. So here's the game everybody's going to race to. It's like 1 million points, higher than every other game. It's Brooklyn at Atlanta. Brooklyn minus 2.5. 242 is the number. That's all. 122.25 for the Nets. 119.75 for the Hawks. So that's no joke. As far as in and out for that game, we've got Brooklyn coming in, by the way, at 40-37, Atlanta at 40-37. So you think this game matters? This is fight for your life, trying to get the playoffs out of the play-in, the whole shenanigans here. But you have 2 key guys questionable for Brooklyn. That's Seth Curry and Bruce Brown. And then we know Simmons is still out. For Atlanta, it looks like Lou Williams and Trae Young will both play. They're probable. I've got them counted in. But the 2 forwards, John Collins and the rookie Jalen Johnson, they're both out. So lots of interest here. And the reason being, you've got Brooklyn, the 6th fastest pace, Atlanta 17th. Brooklyn not defending great at 15th. Atlanta defending terribly at 26th. So how many guys are too many for this game, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. I have at least 2 or 3 guys on each side that I like. Trae Young, obviously got to start with him for Atlanta. He had 57 DK points last time he played against Brooklyn on December 10th, and Brooklyn has allowed the 6th most fantasy points to point guards. So very favorable matchup for Trae Young. Kevin Herr's been playing really good ball lately. He scored 30-plus DK points in his last 4 games. 5,700 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DK, so nice price there. Capella, with John Collins out, he's been scoring 40-plus in 3 of his last 4. I think he's a strong mid-level play on this slate. And he had 44.5 DK points against Brooklyn on December 10th. So he's shown pretty solid numbers up against Brooklyn. And then for Brooklyn, obviously with Kyrie and KD, I think both of those guys are in play. And then I mean, I don't know who's going to defend KD for Atlanta. I don't really think without John Collins, I mean, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. It's not TLC. It's not Bogdanovich, Gallinari. I mean,
maybe DeAndre Hunter, but he's smaller than KD.
I think it's got to be Hunter. I don't think there's an option. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but KD would be my favorite between the two of KD and Kyrie. And then whoever plays between Bruce Brown and Seth Curry, if only one of them plays, I would pick one of those guys. If they're both out, I think Kessler Edwards could be a value play. But that would be about it for me in this game. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely can spend a lot of your salary here, but you're going to have to spend some of it. I mean, I'm actually leaning to the 2 point guards with Kyrie and Trey. Neither one defends well, and there's not a secondary guy that's going to just tear it up. Now, Bruce Brown could get some time on Trey. That's possible. But, on the Kyrie side, I don't think they can afford to put DeAndre on him because they're going to have to put him on Durant. So, I think Kyrie and Trey are my favorite two pay-ups in this game. But I do like some of the value. If Bruce Brown does play, that 5-4 number is very fair.
Yeah.
I think Drummond at 6K is fair, although his minutes have been a little wonky lately. Dragic at 4-4, he's getting a lot of minutes off the bench. I think he's within reason here. Yeah. And then on the Atlanta side, even though they start TLC, Gallo's been getting a bulk of those minutes and getting some rebounds and scoring. So I think Gallinari at 4-8 is very fair off the bench. And like you mentioned, I would say both Herter and Hunter just always are in play for me because they're so cheap. 5-3 and 4-6. Yeah. And, without Collins in there, there's really no standout second guy to Young. Right. It's all shared between Herter, Hunter, Capella, Bogdanovich, Gallinari. They just all share that spot. So it makes Young more playable, and then trying to determine where the tougher matchup's going to be for Brooklyn, and then following that up on the Atlanta side. And I think that falls into one of those value plays of Herter, Hunter, or Gallinari.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, game 2 of the 3-game main slate. Game 4, if you're playing the all day, it's the 8:00 game. Good one, Miami at Chicago. Miami's favored by 2. It's only a 218 total. So you got, we finished the slate with 2 lower scoring games. Yeah. It's 110 implied for Miami and 108 for Chicago. So not a lot of points to go around according to Vegas in this game. Injuries, we have question marks on Caleb Martin, Max Strus, and Gabe Vincent. 3 guys in the rotation off of the bench that are in question. So far, it's early yet, but all the main Miami guys in Bam and Butler and Lowry, those guys are all in. For Chicago, Levine looks as though he'll play again. He's not 100%, but he's been lacing them up. Lonzo Ball remains out. Game set here, first night of a back-to-back for the Heat on the road. They are 28th in pace, Chicago 13th. As far as defense, Miami 4th, Chicago 21st. So this is a tough one. I'm not that crazy about some of the pricing here because, Miami and Chicago has those high-priced guys with Butler, Bam, Levine, DeRozan, and Vuk. And this, for those 5 to pay way up in this type of game setting, the way that a game script comes out, it's hard to really want to pull the trigger and pay up for those guys, don't you think?
Yeah. I do like Jimmy Butler, especially on FanDuel at 7,800, below 8K. I don't know when the last time that he was below 8K. But it's a revenge game for him. He's had history of, he's averaged almost 50 DK points in his last 5 games at Chicago, with 250 plus DK point games and a 63 DK point games. He definitely likes going back to Chicago. He's talked about how much he likes being there and all that in the past. But Kyle Lowry is 6,200 on FanDuel, 5,700 on DK. He's averaged 43 DK points in his 2 games against Miami this year. He had 47.3
against Chicago. You mean, right?
Against Chicago, yeah. Not playing against his own team, against Chicago, yeah. So but he's had good success against Chicago this year, and he's 5,700 on DK. So I feel like that's a solid price. And then Chicago side, I really didn't see anyone that's had much success against Miami. So I don't have anybody on Chicago as of right now. Got me confused a little bit. So actually,
No problem. It's been a long week. It's been a fun one.
It has been fun.
You're right. Lowry's priced low. Butler's certainly priced too low. So that makes those guys very interesting. Max Strus, if he plays, has been playing good ball, and he gets the stats at 3.8. He might be a nice cheap play-in. I have a tendency to like Bam Adebayo here. He's the center of choice for me. Vuk doesn't play great D. I think he can dominate a bit inside. They don't have a big 4 that they play. DeRozan, plays the 4. So I think Bam can have a little extra room there for that mid-range jumper and finishing some shots at the rim. So he's sort of my center of the late card that I prefer the most. And I think he's priced fair, at that 8K number. I'm with you, though. A lot of these guys I just don't want to pay up for. I think, DeRozan, Levine, and Vuk are all just slightly overpriced. Levine's not bad. You could get away with that, but not if Jimmy Butler's guarding him. So, and the bench is just all sort of, mashed together all of a sudden. Since Caruso came back and Patrick Williams came back, it's hurt Sunmu and Green and Williams, White. They're all in that mixture of trying to get some minutes, and it's not working out DFS wise. So I won't have much exposure here. Maybe a one-off and a value from the Miami side, and that's about it. All right, man, 8:30. So it's an early night, which is good. We need an early night. We've been up for these late games, it seems like, all week. It is the Utah Jazz and Golden State Warriors at that 8:30 Eastern time. Utah is favored by 1.5 on the road at Golden State. It's only a 218 total, just like the second game. And remember, those 3 night games, you've got a 242 in Brooklyn and Atlanta, and these other 2 games are 218. That's a pretty big leap.
Wow.
109.75 implied for Utah, 108.25 for the Golden State Warriors. Utah comes in 46-31, Golden State 48-29. Both trying to position for the playoffs. It's the first night of a back-to-back for Golden State. And we've got Utah 20th in pace, Golden State 12th. Defensively, Utah 12th, Golden State 2nd. So not the best mix again for DFS purposes. You've got Whiteside questionable, so he may be back to back up Gobert. And Forrest is out, and we know Steph is out. So any interest in this late game?
A little bit. Mitchell's averaged about 44 DK points against Golden State this year. 8,100 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DK. We talk about the 5X plus 10. That's not going to get it done. Golden State's allowed the 6th fewest fantasy points to point guards. So I think that, they're going to hold him in check for the most part. Gobert is a little bit better option, I think. He's 8,300 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DK. He's averaged around the same as Mitchell. So just a little bit of a price break there. And then it's just something I kind of found funny. Bohan Bogdanovic, 4,900 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DK. In 3 games against Golden State, 32, 32.5, and 32 DK points.
Wow.
So really consistent. And that's not bad. 32 at that price, that's not bad at all. It's close to 6X. So And then on Golden State, I think Jordan Poole is due for a letdown game. You know, he's had less than 30 DK points in all 3 games against Utah this year, so he's probably going to be a fade for me. The guy who has had some success was kind of surprising to me, and that's Otto Porter Jr. He's 4,900 on FanDuel, 4,200 on DK, had 47.8 and 34 DK points in his 2 games against Utah this year. So as a value play, you could look at Porter. But yeah, this game, not a lot that I like. Bogdanovic for the value, I think, and maybe Gobert if you need a center. So that's about it for me.
Yeah, I really hate this game. I mean, there's just not a lot of interest here at all. I mean, I thought about Gobert when I was looking at Bam, but just the fact that I think Whiteside will be back, just that extra 3-4 minutes that Gobert's playing with Whiteside out, I think he'll maybe lose a little bit of that.
Right.
And it is, so I don't know. I mean, it's again, 2-3 minutes can make all the difference in the world. I mean, you can get 2 buckets and 3 rebounds and a block, and then your score looks completely different. So, I mean, he's not a bad play. 7-6 is certainly fair. He'd be my pivot from Bam if I went there. But, I don't know if Bogdanovic is back quite in a groove yet because he had missed some time. I mean, but 5-1 is cheap. He's always tempting. Donovan Mitchell is the best play, no question to me, in this game, I believe. But 8-4 is the question. Can I get him in there and still stack up that Brooklyn and Atlanta game the way I want to is going to be the question, especially if I'm buying up for Bam in that Miami-Chicago game. So can I fit Mitchell in will be the $1 million question because he's the guy that I'd like to go to here. I'm with you on Poole. I think he regresses a little bit. This, neither one of these teams, I think, has standout guys because it's somewhat the Spider-Man deal here because you have 2 smart veteran coaches, 2 smart veteran teams. They both play good defense. They're savvy in that way. And I think that, you're not going to get a giant DFS game really from anybody. You can go with some of the value guys on both sides, but they're so risky. The Conleys and O'Neals and even Draymonds and Andrew Wiggins, Looney, Porter. I mean, minutes, you don't know exactly how many total minutes. They're inconsistent in their scores. So I'm going to try to avoid this game as much as possible and try to squeeze Mitchell in if I can.
Yeah, I mean, Porter, Bogdanovic, those kind of guys aren't guys that I would be playing on a 10-game slate. But, on really a 3-game slate, when you're looking at a slate, you kind of have to consider those kind of guys. So
Exactly. All right. If you want to sign up for DFS Coach Talk, you go to dfscoachtalk.com. We would love to have you. We have a brand new offering that started yesterday. It is our NBA playoffs /MLB/PGA special. And it's because you get everything we've got from now until June 19th, which would be Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You get all of our sports during that time for 2 payments of $68.50. It's a fantastic deal. You get everything we've got. We provide a Draftkings coach's clipboard every day with 5 core plays, several other players listed. We also provide full cash and GPP lineups for FanDuel and Yahoo, and all of our prize pick selections. We'll give a couple each away on our podcast each day, but then we have several, like, my goodness, Crash went ballistic yesterday, like 9-1 or something crazy like that. So we're giving several out, other prize picks plays out. And we'll be doing that in baseball as well. So you have all that to look forward to. Come be a part of Coach Talk. We'd love to have you. And also want to thank Prize Picks for sponsoring this podcast. Go to prizepicks.com. Use that promo code Coach Talk and get 100% all the way up to $100 on your first deposit. All right, sir. That is it. We've got all 5 games covered. Let's get this sucker up so everybody can check it out. We try to squeeze those in because we know a lot of providers don't give you that early slate info. We want to have you
Mhm.
get every edge possible. We'll be in Discord posting 30 minutes before lock. So have a wonderful Saturday. Tomorrow's going to be fun. Join me twice tomorrow. I'll be with Deb in the morning doing the 12-game slate on a podcast. And then 3 Eastern, 2 Central, I'll be with Gundacker live on YouTube. We'll post that in our Discord and on Twitter. And we'll also go over the 12 games. So you're going to be very well prepared for that monster slate tomorrow night and day for Sunday in the NBA. So that is it. If you want to catch us on Twitter, we're at DFS Coach Talk. I am at Joe Sarvati. He is at JP Davis 1982. And we will certainly be back here in a little while to go over our prize picks plays. And then you'll see a lot of me tomorrow because I'll be on here double duty for the big 24 teams playing. Anything else, Mr. Crash?
Nope, I think we got it covered. So let's do what we did last night and do even better.
Let's do what we do. We say we're professionals here. Let's do what we do.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for listening in. Have a fantastic weekend, and let's absolutely crush it in NBA DFS.